Today we're here in Washington, D.C. to meet up with Clay Oliver of Oliver Farm. He's been asked to testify in front of the House Committee on Agriculture regarding the success and resiliency of local food systems.
So the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition is a nonprofit alliance of about 130 organizations all around the country that are really bound together by our desire to try to change and transform federal farm policy in a direction that supports local and regional food systems, diversity within agriculture, and just overall sustainability within our food and farm system. Our members are on the ground throughout the country working with farmers, leaders in their community, food producers, entrepreneurs, identifying what are the real issues that need to be addressed here in Washington, D.C. And they're the ones who then bring those issues to us and then basically charge us with coming to the Hill, talking with lawmakers, talking with the USDA about how do we make this a reality? How do we help out these communities and these producers and what they truly need? The Farm Bill is a massive, large, omnibus piece of legislation that Congress debates and passes approximately every 5 years. As a big piece of legislation, it's touching all commodity production, corn, soy, cotton, wheat, you name it. But it also includes programs and resources to help local and regional food systems development. Farmers who are trying to produce and sell locally, as well as consumers who are trying to access local food. One of the things in the Farm Bill that helps out local and regional food farmers is a program called the Value-Added Producer Grants Program. It was a program that was specifically created recognizing that farmers were getting less and less from traditional commodity markets, and one of the ways they could find a new path to success is to start developing value-added agriculture enterprises on their farms. So taking the products or the commodities they're growing, and rather than just selling them to a grain elevator or some processor, transforming them into a usable product for consumers themselves. Clay was already on our radar as one of these great stories of someone who had used this wonderful program to transform what their family farm was doing in just a really positive direction. And so we just gave him a call and said, hey, would you be up for this? He said he had to ask his wife first, but he was totally excited and honored about the opportunity. But like I said, he needed to ask his wife and figure out if they could really take the time to come here up to Washington, D.C. to do that.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us as we discuss how farmers and ranchers across the country are capitalizing off local agricultural markets. Today's farmers and ranchers have an incredibly challenging job. We expect these individuals to feed a growing world, be good stewards of the land, and navigate an increasingly complex global economy. While these ideals are admirable, farmers and ranchers ultimately cannot achieve these goals if their operations are not financially viable to support themselves and their families. This challenge has been increasingly difficult in recent years as the farm economy continues to lag. Despite this downturn, farmers and ranchers have seen a surge in consumer interest for foods that were produced locally. As consumers become more connected to the story of their food, we see producers across this nation seeking out new business opportunities directly with shoppers to increase their margins and keep their operations viable. During this subcommittee hearing, we will receive testimony from farmers and advocates from across the country who are working to support successful local agricultural markets. I look forward to hearing their perspectives and to learn how we can better support market opportunities for farmers and ranchers in our districts. Thank you so much to the four of you for being here today. We will now proceed to hear from our witnesses.
I'm not a farmer, but I am tied to agriculture and I'm tied to food. We all are. Communities like the U.S. Virgin Islands, with the least assets, a shortage of technical expertise, limited resources for matching opportunities, and a higher level of need, often go underserved.
At some point, So much of our product is going to be outsourced and imported that we're not going to be able to feed ourselves healthy and nutritious fruits and vegetables. And this is self-inflicted, in my opinion.
As you know, the 2018 Farm Bill requested a 25% matching grant requirement. We would welcome waiving that match on a case-by-case basis for certain organizations that are under-resourced.
Thank you so much, Ms. Seaman. Mr. Oliver, please begin.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify before you about my family's farm and the Value-Added Producer Grant Program. My name is Clay Oliver, and I'm the owner of Oliver Farm Artisan Oils. We're a small family business located in Pitts, Georgia. Currently, we produce oils from 6 different seeds and nuts. Our oils are sold in retail-sized bottles up to industrial volumes. Cold-pressed and unrefined, our oils taste like the seed or nut that they are extracted from. They retain their vitamins and healthy nutrients because of the slow, gentle way they're processed, and they can be used in many ways. At Oliver Farm, we also mill our defatted meal after the oil pressing into finely ground flours. These seeds and nut flours offer a tasty gluten-free option to wheat and grain flours for those with grain allergies and as a tasty twist on classic desserts. As you know, during 2008, the Great Recession began and people all over felt the effects. Our fuel prices skyrocketed and there was a lot of talk about alternative fuel sources. That sparked in me an interest that I knew very little about, and I began researching and visiting oil plants, learning everything I could about this. My initial thought was to make my own fuel and supplement what we used. However, the equipment's expensive and the savings on fuel would not pay for the equipment for a long time. I was very fortunate to meet some people who influenced me to consider growing, processing, and selling food-grade oils. After spending some time thinking about it and doing my research, I fell in love with the idea of growing and processing sunflower oil on our farm. And that's when the Lord began to open some doors for me. Through my involvement with Georgia Grown, I first became aware of the Value-Added Producer Program and that I might qualify for it. In 2015, Oliver Farm was awarded a matching $250,000 working capital grant. The funds were used for processing, sales, and marketing. The impact of the grant was phenomenal for our company. Overall, Value-Added Producer Grant gave me support and encouragement to take a leap of faith and grow my business beyond my means. If I could change one thing about VAPG, it would be that the money received is not considered taxable income. I've already made it and been taxed on it once. It doesn't seem fair to be taxed on it again. Thank you for this opportunity to testify about my family's farm and the value of the Value-Added Producer Grant. Thank you for funding programs like it in the new LAMP program. Thank you.
To you, Mr. Oliver, I wanted to know if you could talk about value-added food processing. In the Virgin Islands, this is something that we've been looking at for our smaller farmers to work as a cooperative together to implement value-added food processing to support some of the things that Summer Sibley talked about so that we can move to exporting rather than just having internal food production.
Yeah, the value of the Value-Added Producer Grant coupled with cooperatives is exponential what it could do. We've recently joined a cooperative and it has allowed us access to markets I wouldn't normally attend, couldn't physically be there, and access to new groups of people that, again, wouldn't be there. And the grant definitely can allow the entrepreneurial spirit to flourish. It would definitely give you the funds to support that. And, you know, my mind was racing like, wow, you know, what kind of oil could I press from things down there, you know, in the Virgin Islands?
A lot.
Right, and that's the opportunity, you know, maybe, you know, oil processing from native plants and seeds down there. So.
Thank you. That's really interesting. These are the many challenges we face every day, and I'm glad we had an opportunity to speak on those things. The growth in value-added programs is a great step in the right direction. We must look for an equitable way to assist our farmers in growth and productions. I want to thank all of our witnesses for their valuable testimony. We've identified some areas where we think we can work and support you all in the work that you're doing.
So we're standing here on Capitol Hill, and the hearing just wrapped up. It was about an hour and a half or so, and you were the only producer. Like, you were essentially speaking for people who were getting those particular grants. And I think that Big Ag gets a lot of the attention, gets a lot of the funding, and a lot of laws are built around the needs of Big Ag. When, you know, to me, the small guys, the people who are working on a local and regional level, that's where you're really creating a great deal of change directly in communities. I think it's something that we need to try to expand the voice of that. Do you feel like that kind of happened here today?
Yeah, I think so. I think the voice of the smaller people was heard. Commodity ags, they have programs, they have funding, they have safety nets to prevent them from going out of business, price floors, where the small guys like us and value-added producers, there's nothing like that. You're risking your life savings, the work that you've done to bring this product that you believe in to people. So value-added producer grant really gives you a benefit in that you have a little safety net there, It's this incentive to try things that you normally wouldn't try.
Next up, we're going to head to Frederick, Maryland to meet up with Simon of Wander Hemp Co. He uses Clay's oil as the base of his products. I love that, you have this direct connection with the sunflower guy from Pitts, Georgia.
Yeah, absolutely. He makes really good products. I mean, we love them. I use them in my kitchen as well. They're one reason that our products help so many people, and one reason why we love them so much. They taste good and they make us feel good. Our CBD oils don't taste like a lot of other CBD oils, and a big reason for that is the sunflower that we use. It's a whole different product. It doesn't taste like cannabis, it doesn't smell like cannabis. It works differently with the body. The community has really responded really well to these products and to us, so we're just trying to take this model that we're talking about and see, how it can carry on. I think that a lot of things are changing out in the world, and so looking at sort of how we do our business, in my opinion, is definitely one of them.
Well, you mentioned that things are changing out in the world, and I think one of the biggest changes is that people want to know where everything comes from. They want things to be traceable. They want to feel comfortable with things that they're putting into and onto their bodies. And this has really ramped up over the past 5 years or so. And the reason why you would use a CBD oil is obviously for health benefits. So being able to fully understand what every ingredient is that's part of that product, and being able to, work with people like Clay or any other, value-added producer where you can directly say, I know who grew these sunflowers, I knew who pressed these sunflowers, and now it's here. That's something that creates tremendous value for the consumer.
Absolutely.
A lot of people oftentimes question whether or not these kind of investments like the Value-Added Producer Grant Program are necessary in rural communities. And one of the things I've learned from working with farmers who have gotten these Value-Added Producer Grants is oftentimes they're trying to engage in new, innovative ideas that don't necessarily have long track records of being super financially profitable. They're taking risks. They're, being entrepreneurs. And currently there really isn't resources available. Banks aren't willing to loan for these type of activities. So if there isn't a grant program like the Value-Added Producer Grants, investing it just doesn't happen. The USDA's Economic Research Service did a study a couple years ago, and what they came out and said was, where Value-Added Producer Grant investments are made, you have businesses that survive longer and they create more jobs than if those investments weren't made. So I think, the proof is in the pudding. We think Clay is a great spokesperson for what this program can do for a family farm to help transform it.
How did you feel about being given the opportunity to come and testify?
Well, it's a tremendous honor. I mean, you just think, Pitts, Georgia, to go to the capital of the United States and to give your testimony for good, not bad. It's just tremendous honor. I'm very thankful for that. And, to be a voice for smaller people fighting for a piece of the pie. That's the main thing to me is, if you don't do it, if we don't stand up, they're going to give the money to somebody. It's going somewhere. So if we don't raise a fuss, then we have no right to complain.
I mean, I think that's really what a big takeaway from this entire experience is that you need to be given a voice to be able to connect. Unless there is a spotlight really put on what you're doing, then people just don't understand what you're dealing with.
No matter who you are, when you have an opportunity to stand up and do something for the better good, you should do it. takes time out of your schedule or whatever, and it's inconvenient a lot of times, and it definitely gets you out of your comfort zone, but it's worth it. You know, sometimes those opportunities only come along once in a lifetime.
Connect with us online at wearetastemakers.com or through social media on these handles.